There are now 7 different killers in Forsaken. You have the classic one like Slasher and the complex one like Nolley. But with so many options, it is really hard to know who is actually good and who is actually a waste of your time. In this video, I'm ranking every single killer from the worst to the best. I'll explain exactly how their abilities works, their biggest weakness, and give them a final tier ranking. Now this is my first ever ranking video. I didn't ask for the pros to help. This is 100% based on my own experience. So my list might look different from yours, and that's okay. But enough talking, let's see who's end up at the bottom of the list. Starting off the list in the B tier, we have Slasher. He's a strictly close range melee killer. He has 28 sprint speed, 110 stamina, 9.5 stamina loss per sec, 21 stamina gain per sec, and 3 main ability. His main attack is a slash forward. It deals 20 damage and 8 bleeding damage over time. Next, Behead. Slasher performs a lunge forwards, swinging his machete, dealing 20 damage and apply helpless for 10 seconds. This ability is used to follow up after slash for an easy 48 damage combo. And also, his main chasing ability is Raging Pace. And this is the key to use this ability correctly. Right when your stamina hits 0, Raging Pace gives you a walk speed of 19.5 and lets you regain your stamina while you're still moving. It's perfect for keeping up the pressure and making sure the survivors never get a second to breathe. I personally love Slasher because his M1 is incredibly consistent. With a short windup and a long hitbox, it is really easy to land a hit, making him a total headache for survivors trying to juke. However, he isn't perfect. His biggest weakness is that he has 0 range abilities. And if you're playing against a sweaty server or a team that actually know how to work together, you are going to get loot for a long time. But because of the raw speed and pressure he put on the map, I'm putting Slasher firmly in the high B tier. But you better be ready to work for those kills when you get into higher level lobbies. Moving on from Slasher, we have the most strategic killer in the game, John Doe. Now, John Doe is a true trapper, and why many players struggle with his kit, he has this massive skill ceiling. I'm placing him in a low B tier, just below Jason, but don't let that fool you. If you master his map pressure, he has an S tier potential. His core strength lies in digital footprint. After a windup, John Doe leaves a trap that slows and damages anyone passing through. This ability alone cuts up 90% of the game's most powerful loops, forcing survivors out of optimal pathing, making them vulnerable to John Doe M1. But the real chess move is his corrupt energy. Once used, John Doe releases a trail of spikes that block off the survivor, kinda like a wall. You can use these spike walls to literally rewrite the map. If you see a survivor heading for a safe window over a powerful pallet loop, you can cut them off, then use digital footprint, creating an enclosed area and doom the survivor. However, he isn't perfect. His biggest weakness is his punishingly slow windup. If you misuse your traps, the survivor gonna create massive distance and you lose the chase. Pair that with a long M1 windup, make him incredibly easy to juke in open space. And you will also find that he's really map dependent. On open maps, he struggles a lot, but in tight enclosed areas, he's an absolute nightmare. To play him at a high level, you have to utilize trap to your advantage. You aren't playing a chaser, you're playing a strategist. You are cutting out their looping oxygen and forcing them into corners they can't escape. It's genuinely some of the most fun you can have in Forsaken, watching a survivor realize they walk right into your trap. With all of that said, I'm putting John Doe in the low A tier, good in the right hand but generally hard to play. But if you think John Doe takes a lot of brain power, then you aren't ready for the next killer. Because we are moving into one of the most complex characters in the game, Nolley. Nolley is a total trickster, speeder, hybrid, and honestly, ranking him is a bit complicated. If you are a beginner, he's in C tier because of his kit is so clunky. But if you are a pro who has mastered his mechanics, he's going to sit at A tier level. However, since we are working on how he performs against high level survivors who know how to counter him, I'm placing him in the B tier for this list. What I personally love about Nolley is his observant ability. It allows you to teleport to generators and apply hallucination to players. If you pair that with Void Rush, you can ambush survivors for huge damage. On top of that, Nova is a strong projectile that explodes on contact, dealing 15 damage and pulling survivors towards the center. You can utilize this to pull survivors down when they're looping on high ground by pressing the button again to explode prematurely on a ledge, pulling them right into your M1. Speaking about M1, Nolley actually has the longest M1 hitbox in the entire game, being 8 studs long, making it quite easy to land a hit. But Nolley has some massive cons that keep him out of the A tier. His ability has a very long windup and high end lag. making it predictable and easy to loop. If you miss a move, you're stuck in an animation where the survivor gains a lot of distance and get away. Even his hallucinations are fairly easy for survivor to recognize and ignore. Plus, his main high damage ability, Void Rush, is arguably the easiest to dodge in the entire game due to its lack of turning speed and a 2-stage preparation. All a survivor has to do is hug a sharp corner and your Void Rush become completely useless. To play Nolley like a pro, you have to manage your stamina. My big tip is only use Void Rush when you have high stamina. Since you can't regen stamina in Void Rush, use this strictly to close distance. When the survivor wreck line of sight, don't try to hit them with it, just catch up. If you find yourself low on stamina, that's when you switch to Nova. This is because Nova puts you on quite a long wind up, so you can have time to regen stamina instead of throwing the chase. And if you lose track of someone, use Observant to reset the chase or set up a fresh ambush. He's a really high skill, high reward killer, but he's not the only one who uses speed to dominate the map. If you want a killer who is both strong and agile, you have to look at Cool Kid. Now, Cool Kid is what I call the jack of all trades. I'm ranking him in the A tier. He's a high risk, high reward killer, and honestly, he feels like one of the most balanced characters in the roster. The first thing you'll notice when you're playing him is his M1 attack feels instant. It has the shortest windup in the game, being 0.1 seconds, so you aren't guessing if your hit will land, it just does. His kit is incredibly diverse, starting off with Corrupt Nature, where you throw a break that when hit, slows survivor down for 5 seconds and highlight them for 10 seconds. This could be used to catch up or dealing chip damage. This is a strong move against most of the survivors, but it can also be used to clean up things like sentries or traps. Then you have it best gap closer, walk speed override. This is a forward lunge that carries you across the map. If you land it, it deals massive burst damage, but be careful. If you miss, survivors gains massive distance and they will be long gone. To keep the pressure on while you're managing your stamina, you use pizza delivery. This bot hunts down the nearest survivor, and while they can feel a bit underwhelming in open chases, they are perfect for flushing out people out of looping spots and throw the survivors out of stamina management. However, Cool Kid have many major flaws. First, although his kit is versatile, outside of walk speed override, Corrupt Nature and pizza delivery can be easily countered. First, Corrupt Nature is really hard to hit since the survivor could easily dodge it and its hitbox is really small. If you do hit the survivor, the slowness effect is underwhelming and not as strong as 1x entanglement. Cool Kid minions is really slow, so survivors can easily counter them just by simply running away, or use their ability to counter like Guest Charge, Ghost Burger, 007 clone, etc. Also, since he has to rely on his slow minion to find where the survivor is, survivors like Noob or 007 and 7 can hard counter Cool Kid, easily hiding from his minions and negating his pressure. But if you can handle the precision, Cool Kid can be a really good pick for you. He isn't map dependent, he can close gap from a mile away, and he punishes mistake really hard. He's the definition of a rushdown type killer. But if you are looking for a killer who trade that raw speed for something a bit more supernatural and long range, then we have to talk about 1x1x1x1. Now this is easily one of my favorite killer in the entire game, and I'm placing them in the high A tier. While they don't have the raw speed of Cool Kid, they make up for it by being the ultimate sniper of Forsaken. If you like playing from a distance, 1x1x1 is your go-to. Their kit is centered around projectiles. With 2 long-range ability, 1x can snipe survivors halfway across the map. First, Entanglement. If you land this projectile, you gain speed 2 for 3 seconds. The survivor got froze and forced to play a minigame, or else they can't move. This closes the distance instantly and allows for a devastating 1-2 combo with Sword Slash or a close range Mass Infection, which can easily wipe out 80% of their health in seconds. Mass Infection is also arguably the best utility move in the entire game. Not only it damages survivors, it's also strong enough to clean up hazards like traps or sentries from a massive range in one hit. What truly makes 1x a nightmare is in the late game. Rejuvenate the Rotten gives you the best last man standing potential of any killer. You summon minions that apply constant pressure, and every time you hit one of your own zombies, you get a free 10-second speed boost. In a 1v1 scenario like this, it's almost impossible for a survivor to escape you. However, there's a reason why they aren't S tier. 1x1x1x1 has the slowest base run speed in the entire game. You are really reliant on landing your projectiles to close the distance. If you are on a map with a lot of elevations or hills, your projectiles projectiles become useless since they only work on flat ground. Plus, his M1 windup is painfully slow. To counter this, you need to master the flick technique. Flicking your screen to widen the hitbox so you have a much easier time catching survivors. You have to be patient, predict their movement, and land the right hit at the right time. It's a high skill playstyle that rewards accuracy over everything else. With all of that said, I'm ranking 1X in the high A tier. He's strong, he has really good range ability, and gain massive advantage in last man standing. But if you want a killer who's even more of a ghost on the map, someone who can push you into the shadows before you can even see them, then we have to talk about Nosferatu. Now, Nosferatu is one of the newest additions into the game, and while he's incredibly fun to play, I'm placing him in the B tier. He has some of the coolest mechanic in Forsaken, but compared to the heavy hitters we have already talked about, it feels a little bit underwhelming in the current meta. What makes Nosferatu stand out is his versatility. He has a total of 5 abilities, making him really tricky yet fun to play as. His abilities allows you to close distance like 1X, trap survivors like John Doe, or play an ambush style like Nolley. To help with this, he has Ascension, which I genuinely believe he's the best distance closer in the entire game. When used, it turns you into a bat, fly through obstacle, and land right on top of your prey. You can also utilize Ascension to ambush survivors for a free 35 damage when they're doing generators. His Cataclysm ability acts a lot like John Doe's trap, creating a zone that damage and slow down survivors passing by, making them an easy prey for your M1 if afflicted. His Bloodhook ability is also a strong move to reel player in and deal huge damage, up to 40 total damage if successfully reeled in. And you can also end this combo with a follow-up Hunter Feast. This ability, if hits, dealt 5 damage and give Nosferatu a 10-second strength buff, making his ability quite terrifying to go against. However, the reason he sits in B tier is his raw output. His M1 damage is only 24, which is honestly some of the lowest in the entire game. You can be the best at catching survivors, but it takes forever to actually down them. He also struggles heavily against survivors with high mobility or stuns like Veronica, Shanks, or Guess. If you don't take those targets out first, they will loot you for quite a long time. Another downside is that his ability is quite hard to hit. While they have a huge hitbox, is quite predictable and survivor can easily dodge it. For example, Cataclysm or Ascension. To play him right, you have to be a predator. You need to target players who have separated from the group and use the abilities to trap them and end them. He's a fun pick for sure, and his movement feels amazing, but he just lacks the stopping power you need for S tier. So again, Nosferatu will be sitting in the high B tier. But speaking of power, there's one killer left who takes everything we've talked about, the speed, the terror, the map control, and turns it into a literal nightmare. Our final killer is Get 666. In my opinion, this is the most underrated killer in the entire game. What makes Get 666 so incredibly fun to play is his snowball potential. His kit is built around high damage and gaining distance. He's quite slow in the beginning, but everything changes when you enter Blood Hunt. During this mode, his damage output becomes absolutely disgusting. Allows you to tear through multiple survivors, completely avoid stuns, and kill multiple survivors in a single change of event. Even the most skilled players fear what Master Get 666 can do. They can't stun them, they can't outrun them, they can't do anything. He's capable of doing constant, unrelenting damage until you are dead, leaving you with almost zero room to breathe. In fact, there's virtually no way you can counter him effectively unless you have a perfect teamwork, usually requiring at least 3 supports just to stay standing. Since finding that level of coordination is almost impossible in public lobbies, your chances of beating a high-level Get 666 are incredibly slim. However, even though number 1 killer has weaknesses, he's somewhat vulnerable to being looped if the survivors know what they are doing, mainly because his wider hitbox making turns a bit tricky. He's also struggled more than you expect in last man standing scenario, where his ability to snowball is less effective against a single focused target. But even if with those flaws, his raw speed and versatility put him in a league of his own. Get 666 is an absolute beast, but there's so much depth into his gameplay that I couldn't fit it all into this ranking list. I actually make a full dedicated video breaking down every secret and high level strategy for him. If you want to see exactly how to take him from a loopable to unstoppable, click the video on the screen right now to see Get 666 in action.